What's going on, lads and lassies? It's Ocean from the South Stand back again with another video. And look, we've got our first international break for the season ticked off already. Football is back this weekend as the lads head down to Selhurst Park for what's sure to be a hard battle against a well organised, hard to beat Crystal Palace. As always, this video is brought to you by the SouthStandClothing.com. Head to the South Stand Clothing for all your Sunderland fan wear. We've got hats, t-shirts, mugs, whatever. We've got loads, hoodies, the lot. Go and have a look, and when you sign up with your email, we will give you 20% off as a welcome bonus as well. So 20% off your first order. Head there now to the SouthStandClothing.com. Let's get right into things. So as we all know, there's been some changes at Palace over the summer, but for a lot of reasons, what they've managed to keep is just as important as who they've ended up selling. Eberechi Eze made his way to Arsenal this summer after it looked like he was pretty spot on going to be a Spurs player. But in what became bigger news, Mark Gahey's deal to Liverpool fell through on transfer deadline day. With apparently minutes left to go, there's been a lot of rumours that this one seemed all but done. He'd had his medical and everything for Liverpool, so he's definitely set to be a Liverpool player with his personal team terms and everything agreed. But Oliver Glasner ended up vetoing the move because Palace didn't have a suitable replacement, which is fair enough. I mean, you're looking at a player like Mark Gay, he is one of, if not England's best centre-back. I mean, there's a lot of people debating that one just now, with John Stones getting a little bit further in his career. Maguire and stuff do a good job for England, but when it comes to the league last year, it's hard to think of a better centre-back, I think better English centre-back than Mark Gahey. And I think he showed just how important he was to Palace in that away win versus Villa, because he definitely scored a goal and he might have actually assisted as well. I probably should have looked into that one, but his goal was an absolute belter. So if you've not, check out the highlight for that one. It was incredible. But for Glasner, this means he started the season with pretty much the same team that he ended last year with, and with a system and team like Crystal Palace under Oliver Glasner, that continuity is really important for them. I mean, they went on a fantastic run at the second half of last season, obviously won their first trophy, the FA Cup, and then ended up backing that up with the Community Shield as well. So Palace are no mugs. They are no mugs this season. They're so well structured. They've got quality players from back to front. Even the fact they've kept a hold of Adam Wharton. I mean, when you look at this kid, considering his age, he is so impressive. Last season, he absolutely shone, but even this season, he's came back into things. He is still ticking away. I mean, the way he's able to really just cut open, he can just pick a pass and get it done. It's not really it's not a hassle for him to pass. It's actually, do you know what? In a lot of ways, it reminds me of the way Paul Scholes used to pass a ball. The way he can just pick out anyone and get the ball there. But they're a team with defensive stability, a lot of structure, and flair going forward as well. I mean, even the likes of Mateta, Sarr, all the players, realistically, Palace have got good players in every position. Where pre-Brentford, I spoke about them being the biggest challenge so far. I think that's the same again for Palace. As I've just said, they're no mugs under Oliver Glasner. So what can we expect from Palace this Saturday? I'm going to move over to this side quickly and just give myself a bit more room to put a little diagram up here. But this is how Palace set up in their last game against Aston Villa. Pretty much how they will set up under Glasner. As you can see, Palace normally set up in this 3-4-2-1 formation. What this means is it offers Palace a lot of numbers and control in the middle of the park. With players like Wharton, as I just spoke about, who are able to dictate play and really just, we speak about an orchestra. He's kind of, he's our Xhaka in that sense. Wharton is our Xhaka. But even players like Will Hughes, brilliant player on the ball. A lot of the Palace players are able to just deal with the press effectively. They're able to recycle the ball over and over again. So once they're in possession, it can be quite hard to get the ball off of them. This system does allow them to outnumber a lot of teams in midfield, with Kamada and Sarr just sitting just in front of Will Hughes and Adam Wharton. It means they're a constant nuisance for the defenders to think about. Never mind the fact that Mateta is massive and he is constantly bullying defenders. He is huge in physical stature, height, all of it. And the use of wing-backs in this system often means that teams are stuck having to deal with runners like Muniz and Mitchell, who keep you occupied up and down those flanks. So it means that a lot of times you end up being pinned out wide, covering those wing-backs. And as I said, Mateta, it offers a huge physical presence up front. He had a great season last year. Again, he really came into his form at Crystal Palace, ended the season with 14 goals and 2 assists. So what does this mean for Sunderland, and how can we look to counteract this Palace system? Well, for me, reflecting on our first 3 games of the season, Burnley, of course, was our worst performance yet, and for a lot of reasons, but there's plenty we can take from this and learn. and there's plenty that Regis did take from and moved on to the next game against Brentford. In terms of the Burnley game, Scott Parker got it spot on, setting up in that 4-4-2 low block. He pretty much said to Sunderland, okay, you have the ball and see what you can do with it, which is pretty much our game. He played as our own game in that sense. Not that we necessarily are stuck in that 4-4-2, but in terms of just giving the possession over, Burnley forced Sunderland to do something with it, and they knew that we'd be stuck. I think what we can learn from that game, though, against Burnley, in that game, our midfield were unable to create the movement or kind of find the passes, and it forced us, well, the numbers that Burnley had in the centre of the park forced Sunderland to play the ball out wide, and we never really done much with that. I mean, we were firing crosses that were kind of pointless because, one, they had so many big players just in that box, covering the whole box, but also our biggest threat, Dan Ballard, got taken off in that game. I say our biggest threat, our biggest aerial threat got taken off in that game, and Dan Ballard. But Burnley just did well. I mean, they crowded the box with big men, kept us out, forced us to put it out wide, and just repeatedly cross the ball in. But what was disappointing, as I said, was the fact that we couldn't really create that movement or find the passes through the middle. And I think we've got the technical players and the players that have got the passing ability to play that football, but yet on that day we couldn't. There was a lot to learn for that game. But as I said in the match review for that one, there's not many teams that are going to play like that against Sunderland this year. Not many teams, and not a team like Palace, are going to sit back at home and let Sunderland trying to bring the game to them. When it came to the following game, I think Regis Labrie got it spot on. He finally found a way to make Enzo Lefebvre more effective on the wing by allowing Ronaldo to run all the way up top. So in possession, Sunderland basically allowed Ronaldo to bomb all the way up that left wing. At times he was as high as Mayenda was, but what that did was allowed Enzo Lefebvre to come in centrally. This really opened up his capabilities. I mean, we've seen it last season. Enzo often had to play in the wing, but just wasn't effective because he wasn't able to come inside and play that way. But we've seen it last week. Ronaldo, his incredible fitness and just incredible want to work hard meant that he was up and down that field. I can't even count how many times, to be honest. But bringing Enzo infield really offered a lot of options for Sunderland and allowed us to overwhelm Brentford in terms of numbers. When it comes to this game, I'd like to see a lot of that brought into this as well. So as I said before, the way Palace set up in that 3-4-2-1 system means that they've got a lot of numbers in the middle of the park. For me to counteract that, I'd be looking at starting Enzo on the wing like we did last game, allowing Ronaldo that free movement up and down the left-hand side. But what I would then say is I'd rather start in a double pivot rather than the single pivot that we've seen from Xhaka. So normally we're used to seeing Xhaka sit right in front of that defensive line and play the ball out from there. But considering their numbers in the middle of the park, I think playing with a double pivot allows us to cover players like Kamada and Sarr a little bit easier. It also means that he can easily slip back into that left hand side role if Sunderland are defending as a 4 in possession as well. Although on that, you'll see throughout that Brentford game, Siddiqui doesn't always come in and fill in that left hand side role whenever Ronaldo bombs forward. Because realistically, if that was the case, we might as well just put Enzo in there and then, just start them elsewhere. But at times, Sunderland were perfectly comfortable defending in a back three with Trey Hume, Mukiele, and Omar Alderete being the three in there. If you're worrying about Trey being in a centre back three, that is how Northern Ireland played against Germany the other night. And I think Trey in himself did a pretty decent job in that instance. For this one, I don't think we'll be bringing in any of the new starts. I don't think Geertruida, I don't think Traore, and I don't think that Brian Brobby are going to make an appearance this one. I think it's just too soon. So I think it will be Trey Hume starting that right back in this instance. But yeah, as I said, I think I'd be going for the double pivot. And it doesn't have to be a constant. Siddiqui can roam forward if the space is there. But I think that just starting off that way allows us to have the numbers that we need in central midfield. Not only that, but for me, I think this is Wilson's time to start up front. Now, we've seen it in the first few games. Mayenda, this is no slight to Mayenda and his performances so far. I think he's had a cracking start to life in the Premier League. But I think what Wilson offers for Sunderland in counter-attacking play and his blistering pace, being able to bomb forward, like think back to that Hull City away goal last year and how we got that one. I think Mayenda can look a little bit isolated up top, but with Sunderland more than likely to sit quite deep when not in possession, again, having that blistering pace of someone like Wilson and then also having Habib Diarra there as well, those players been able to sprint forward, stretch out play with players like Enzo being able to pass, players like Xhaka being able to pass the ball out really quickly and get that ball moving from back to front quickly. I think that suits Wilson more. Mayenda's quick as well, but Wilson's quicker and he's better at running in that channel just off the shoulders of those defenders. So for me, so in possession, I think when Enzo Lefebvre is allowed to drift into central midfield, I think that we really could be pushing Habib a little bit further forward, not to play as a striker alongside of him in a more of a 4-4-2 sense, but instead to play as more of a secondary striker behind him. I think with them playing with a back 3/5, having the two of them pressing forward often as high as each other or one behind the other allows us to get either side and in between those two channels in amongst the three. Not only that, but if Ronaldo is bombing up as far as he was last time, and we're having Ronaldo and Talby sitting pinned out on the wings, it really does stretch out their backline. And I think that's where Sunderland can look to get in there. Because when it comes to Crystal Palace, again, as I said before, it's another big team, like a lot of Premier League teams. So stretching that back line out, pinning the wing backs wide, and having Habib and someone like Wilson be able to play in those channels in between the back three and be able to have the ball swing in there. I think that's where Sunderland are going to find some goals, or hopefully a goal, should I say. If Sunderland are going to get anything from this game, they're going to have to be clinical and take their chances. When you watch Palace's first three games of the season, they have allowed chances to Villa and Forest. I mean, I remember even in the corner that Tielemans was able to get his head on the ball. There was no real Palace defender there defending him. So if it's a case like that, Sunderland have been pretty lethal from aerial duels this year. We've been able to score a few headers, as we've all seen. So if we're able to find that space off a corner, that could be there. And realistically, Palace could have lost that game against Forest in the last minute when that ball hit the woodwork. But if we're going to take that to heart, we could have lost in X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z as well. But they're there and they can get at them. It's just hard, and you're going to have to be patient and make sure that when you do get the chance to counter attack, that it's fast and it's accurate. And for me, that's best played when when Wilson's in the park and when Enzo's in the park, and we get those last minute winners. If I was to make a prediction, I'd probably say that this game would end 1-1, but I won't at all be surprised if Crystal Palace come out and just beat us. They're a great team. They're a well organised team. They're a quality team. So I'll be not surprised one bit if Palace beat us. On the other hand, though, Regis and the boys seem to keep finding a way to surprise us this season. And as we all know with Sunderland, it's not done until the end. So there's every chance that we could keep pressing and get that last minute winner as well. I'm just not going to hold my breath out for it. If we get a one each draw, if we get a point away at Palace, I'll take that at this point in the season. I'll always hope for the win, but Palace are a good team and they're no mugs, and I'm not going to underestimate them by any means. In terms of substitutions, it's hard to fully say because, as I've suggested, I'd like to see Wilson start and Enzo start. I don't think that any of the deadline day signings will end up starting in the end, purely because I think it's just too soon. As far as I'm aware, none of them have had a full pre-season. So I think what we'll see is probably a lot like what we've seen against Brentford. At the end of the day, why change what worked? As I said, I think the only thing I'd like to see is probably us starting with a double pivot with Siddiqui alongside Xhaka rather than the single pivot that we normally play with. But other than that, guys, that is that. That is my Palace preview. It's always hard guessing these because at the end of the day, we've been back in the Premier League for 3 games. It's so hard to predict how we're actually going to go against these teams. And it's also hard to try and find the balance between respecting how good sides are, but then also believing in what we've got. I mean, we're seeing it week by week that this team is starting to link up and really gel together. And even players like Talby, who are being underestimated, go back and watch those first 3 games now that they've been and gone, and you'll see a lot of these runs that he's moving, a lot of these runs that he's making, a lot of the balls that he's able to play through, they're starting to pay off. And the fact that we're having players like him and Traore competing on the right wing for Sunderland now, the fact that we've seen a Dingra playing the right wing last week and he looked really good in that sense as well, able to offer a lot on both sides of the park. There's a lot to come from this Sunderland team this season. It's just so hard trying to find out right now where those points are going to go. If it was me, I'd probably guess that come the next international window, we'll probably have more of an idea. I mean, even the teams, when I'm trying to research and do a preview for this game, I've only got 3 games of what this new Palace team looks like as well. I say new Palace team, it's a bit different from last year, and every season is going to offer new challenges anyway. But yeah, look, that's all. Put your score predictions in the comments below. Let me know what you think the final score is going to be. For me, I'm going to stick with a 1 each just now, but realistically, I won't be surprised what way it goes. I really could see all outcomes coming from this game. I could see a Burnley all over again. I could see us doing a Brentford all over again. So we'll find out when the time comes. But that's all for just now. As always, guys, check out the southstandclothing.com. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're liking this video, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Everyone in the last week or two that's been finding these videos have been so lovely. And it's always hard trying to get a YouTube channel off the ground. So any likes and comments that you do leave really does help us out. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next one. How are the lads? Come on.